I'm Gardy Lee. Welcome to the One Up Yours podcast for Friday, May 9th. And joining us today, special guest in the studio, John Davison.
I'm special now.
You are now special guest.
Aw.
And we have Sean Elliott and Shane Bettenhausen here. Andrew working over there on the MacBook Pro to make it all record for us. Let's get this thing going. We're going to do what you've been playing in the first segment, including the One Up Yours Liberty City news reports, which will go along with Grand Theft Auto 4. I want to keep doing those for a while.
We're actually marketing that as like a label.
I don't know. I just I tagged it, whatever.
Okay.
I think it's fun because I don't know. I've been playing a ton of Grand Theft Auto, and like it's like the deal. Everything crazy shit happens, especially in multiplayer.
How long is a ton?
Let's see. I'm 31% in the single player, and I played 3 nights of multiplayer for about 2 or 3 hours each time.
You must be at like 30 hours then, right?
No,
No?
I don't think so. Is that 30 hours? It's like about 6 or 7 hours worth of multiplayer, and then maybe 20 or 25 hours in single player. Yeah, a lot. I also do a lot of screwing around in the game in single player. Dude, I just I seriously am as much. It's the most addicted I've been to a game since the first 2 weeks of World of Warcraft.
Wow.
So there you go. There's that. So we're going to do that, what you've been playing. Second segment, we've got 4-minute warning coming for you. We got 7 of them. You guys did a good job, kicked it into gear about the second page of that thread. And then we've got news with a whole variety of stuff from politics to Gamers Days to Doom 4, big surprise. Anyway, let's roll. Who wants to start off? I know you guys have been playing some other stuff, so let's get the other stuff out there as well. Like some Boom Blocks or something?
I play a lot of Boom Blocks.
I've been dying to play it, but I don't have a Wii.
Seriously cutting into my GTA time. I put it on the other night, and it was one of... you remember the way... this hasn't happened to me in a long time, where you start playing a game, and a bunch of hours disappear, and you didn't realize. Boom Blocks did that to me, and it was so nice to have that experience again.
Single or multi?
Just single.
See, because I really like the multi better.
Yeah?
Once I started playing multiplayer, I didn't want to go back to single player even.
Well, you at the Nintendo Gamers Day were hilarious. You were I don't want a fucking Boom Block kids game. I don't want to play that. And you started playing it, and you were challenging everyone in the room to come and take you on.
I kicked Chris Hudak's ass at Boom Blocks.
Well, there's something to be proud of. Well, actually, there's something to be proud of.
Yeah, it is.
Is it? I don't know. Is it?
But no, start playing a multiplayer. I think your kids will like it because it's so simple.
This weekend, I want to.
You know.
Just the throwing the ball. Have you tried it yet?
Yes, I've totally tried it. I played it every time I had it in the office. I love it, and it has actually gotten me. So since the time we saw it at the Nintendo event, I have been actively looking for a Wii in stores.
Ah,
so
no luck then, huh?
No, of course not. It sucks.
I
refuse to buy a bundle just to be able to buy it online. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to buy a bundle.
Has anybody seen the Wii Fit advertising around town?
Everywhere, dude.
Every bus has it on right now. It's
I know,
crazy.
But what's weird is the one near my bus stop, it shows a grandpa jumping on a Wii Fit board, and it doesn't really say it's a video game, and you wouldn't even know.
It's just like a fitness campaign,
Wii Fit,
right?
521. Yeah, it doesn't say Nintendo anywhere, but it's obviously a grandpa. And I was like, oh, okay.
I told this to Jen when we did the review crew shoot this week. It's like I'm riding on the bus to work day before yesterday, and we go past one of those shelters, and it has the ad, and these 2 folks behind us just immediately start talking about Wii Fit and playing games to exercise and how cool they think their Wii is, and they were so exactly what Nintendo has clicked with, like people who ordinarily wouldn't picture themselves as like gamers, right?
Well, but it's funny, our reviewers, a lot of them thought Boom Blocks was actually a better workout in multiplayer because you get so into it and you're really trying to throw it.
You really end up trying to hurl it.
You're really trying to throw it really fast and hard, and if you play, for an hour or two, it's kind of tiring.
Well, there's some of them where there's this huge tower, and it's like, can you take the whole tower down with one throw?
Right.
So you have to hit at a joint and throw it as hard as you possibly can, and it's like, you're really kind of,
Yeah.
It's good. You like it. Very good game.
Have you ever had Boom Block's arm? You woke up.
Boom Block's arm? No, not yet. No.
Boom Block's arm.
No.
How do you feel about the characters? I'm apparently the only person who thinks they're too cutesy and turn me off.
I don't think they're cutesy. I could just live without them.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, come on! It gives the game some character.
It does. I mean, I don't find them objectionable, but actually what I like less is the trying to force a narrative into it.
When you start doing the little narrative bits, especially
it doesn't need it.
Right, and you don't care about the story, I should skipping all of it.
It's like, I'm not ever at a point like, why am I trying to topple this pile of blocks over? Oh, that's right, because the beavers are attacking the sheep.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
Beavers and sheep.
I don't mind them in their appearance, but I object to their presence in the game, like just the role that they're playing.
Yeah.
So like when I did the first set of levels for adventure mode, and they're just kind of in the background, I'm like, this is pretty cool. And I got to do this because every week you guys have explained it, it never really got a sense for what it was. So I just I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to tell. So that first is like the first phase of the game is like you were saying, John. There's all these castles, and you try to knock them down in the minimal number of moves, and that was fine. I was way into that. Then the next phase though is a number of opposing animals, bears.
And you're throwing like the grenades at them?
Yeah, they're trying to knock your castles down.
I think that mode is far less fun.
Yeah, it's stupid because all that mode amounts to is just pointing a crosshair, and the one difference is that you make the flicking motion with the Wiimote. If
Now, have you done the Jenga grabby levels yet?
I like
I like
those.
those best.
And yeah, I like those, and it's like, but the way that they order it, like, so the next phase, of course, after that is we're the warrior, and that's basically you're back to knocking down castles, but there are enemies on top of them throwing things at your army. Your army isn't really going to do anything. You just basically need to. It's they
have to stop them
basically
getting
serve as
killed.
a timer.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the whole, like, when you go to the puzzle mode and you just say, I don't need to fuck with these characters on here. I just get to look at this from all angles and really think about this shot. Like, you paid your $1 at a carnival, you get to throw your dart where you want. Like, that guy can't rush you. I like that approach to it.
I really like the ones where there's like a single creature on top of a block at the top, and you have to slowly dismantle the whole thing without him falling off, because it's really showing how you can futz with the physics, and you can, like, very often things are teetering on the brink, and if you balance it back and it pops back on.
Right. I think it's at its best when it's simple and about the physics. When they start adding all these little elements to try to make it more complex, it lost me a little bit.
What about the third phase then? Is that escorting or basically restructuring a bridge or a puzzle, a maze, by removing blocks and moving blocks so that, like, a gorilla can get to her infant, gorillas. Like, I didn't find that fun either.
That's where I think that was where they were starting to think, oh, maybe we could sort of dip into Little Big Planet territory a little bit, where there's these conditions where you have one type of creature has AI built in that it'll automatically go after another. I think, like, there's like the dogs go after the sheep, or there's like
an order.
pairings.
Yeah, there's like an order of
There's a pecking order.
operations.
So if you remove a block and it actually lets them get to each other, the aggressor will always go after the other thing, and there's ways that you can use that behavior to trigger. It's interesting. It's more interesting actually when you're creating your own levels, because you can set up all these, like, really fucked up things. Like you can put a whole army of something really aggressive into an area and set up a game type where you can't. You need to do everything else without knocking anything over there, because otherwise they'll go and eat the sheep or whatever.
Yeah, it seemed like I was really glad to, just flipping through the manual, even though I've never taken my Wii online, to see that you can swap levels, puzzles, and stages that you create. Yeah. Because it seems like a Gary's Mod scenario, which is, again, I mean, when that mod started off, it was all about the pleasure of just, like, physics, simulated physics. And it's surprising, too, that the Wii, you're like a physics-based game on the Wii. It seems like the least likely candidate for that, for, like, sort of.
Did they end up? I've not seen them yet. Did they end up shipping all the crazy ones that they were showing, and like the Indiana Jones ball rolling thing, and there was like a pirate ship thing that they showed when they were showing off the creator mode, what you could do with it?
I haven't played the retail version yet.
Okay.
Probably, I mean, use the blocks to make a pirate ship, just like you would with Legos or something.
There was a thing where they built these two ships, and then they'd put these. The chemical, whichever the ones, the exploding ones, where when you bang them together, it's the chemical blocks.
Green ones, yeah.
And it'll fire something across the level. So they'd built it up so it was two ships, and if you triggered the right thing by throwing a ball, it would set it off like two ships shooting cannonballs at each other, and you had to try and make sure that yours destroyed the other one by triggering the explosions.
Like them all,
I haven't got to that.
Like them all or not, the big thing, especially like sitting here listening to you guys talk about it more, that stands out to me is that they took a game that when it was announced, we all dismissed for being light, no depth,
not
going to be any.
I just need to be on the record.
Well, I think if it had,
I am guilty.
Right,
I am
if
guilty of mea
Spielberg's
culpa.
Spielberg's name hadn't been attached, no one would have had those criticisms. It's just you don't expect what appears to be a simple puzzle game from the mind of Steven Spielberg.
Okay, so I'll make this.
You remember that he made E.T. and all these. I mean, like for every Schindler's List and Private Ryan, he would make something for.
I expected
kids,
Amistad for Wii.
Okay,
and I did not get it.
Then let me make this a mea culpa. I'm impressed by looking at the amount of different ways people approach this game, whether it be the sharing different levels they build or which of the adventure modes they like. I'm just surprised and pleasantly surprised at how well developed the game.
I still think it's the best Wii native game since Wii Sports.
Yeah.
I really do.
No argument.
Yeah, and third party. How about that?
Wait. Then Mario Galaxy?
Well, but Mario Galaxy, in terms of couldn't been done anywhere else. I think that Mario Galaxy could have been done somewhere else. I mean, some of the cool things you do with the Wiimote, little bonus levels, those are neat. But
I don't know.
Boom Blocks,
I think that
Boom
takes
Blocks
some
could not
hair-splitting.
exist.
If we just want to say the best, game on the system, I mean, for me, it's orders of magnitude separate the two. And I'm having a good time with Boom Blocks. I'm really liking it. And I like you. I'm waiting for Melissa to come into town next week because I think it's all about multiplayer.
Multi is fun.
It looks like it's that kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like Mario
the
better.
Mario Galaxy thing, though. I mean, it's not that game's perfect or anything, but that game, the feeling I get when I play that, it's.
But I can imagine
long
playing
while.
Mario Galaxy with a GameCube controller, whereas I can never imagine playing Boombox with a GameCube controller.
All right, John, what else have you been playing over there in
Mario Kart with the kids.
But that's cool. Why? That's
because
cool, right?
the kids.
What are they playing? How does it go?
Well, with the wheel, I bet they can
What they play?
Yeah, what they play. .com. That's.
Hey, you can plug it. You
the
can plug
wheel.
your
The
site.
wheel not good for kids. This is the big myth about that kids don't like. Kids don't
Really?
like the wheel.
Will's not into the wheel.
Neither of my kids like the
Wow.
wheel. And Will's better at it. Jack has Jedi skills at Mario Kart on DS, and he's only 3, and he perfect racing line, knows how to nail you with all the way. I mean, it's uncanny.
With these shells, I will.
So he picked it up thinking he was going to be able to do it, and with the wheel, and he played it for 5 minutes and asked me if he could play the DS version. So I mean, there's what happened with the wheel.
That's pretty interesting.
Was it
there.
because-
I'll let you go on, but let's go back to that.
Was it because he was oversteering, the same problem everybody has?
He couldn't deal with it. My older son, it took 2 or 3 sessions of playing it for him to get to grips with it, but he's still not as good at the Wii one as it. Both of them can win every race on the DS now, but with the Wii, when they do well, they come in 6th or 7th. So I gave Jack, my little one, who's the 3-year-old, the Wiimote and the nunchuck,
Which is the best way to play it.
and it is the best way to play it because he went from crapping out on every race and not finishing most of them to placing 7th, 6th straight away. I mean,
He went back to having fun with it.
yeah, he was just not impressed at all. I mean, he was they were really excited when we bought it, and we went to Toys R Us and we picked it up and we got home, and it was literally 5 minutes. Dad, I don't like this. I want to play the DS one. It was hilarious.
Did you purchase multiple wheels?
Yeah, we bought an extra wheel.
It's funny that starts so young for me because I get that same feeling say another iteration. Soul Calibur comes out and the moveset's different, but more specifically if I'm playing a game on it with a controller and I feel like this is very much like games I'm used to playing with the mouse and I don't feel that empowerment, or vice versa. I really just say want to just go back to the other thing. And it's funny at that age that he was even though it's technically inferior, it's not new. This being the DS version, he's 5 minutes.
He's familiar with it.
I mean, I'm competent and empowered.
It's as simple. It's it's 2 buttons.
Maybe they'll get it right with F-Zero.
I mean, you play it with the Wii, with the remote and the nunchuck, and it works. But that is the only way to play it because you try any of the other control methods, and you're if you need to do anything fancy, then
if you're using a GameCube controller, the tricks are on the D-pad. It's ridiculous.
And then with the classic,
Same thing.
They're on the D-pad as well, so you can't do any of the shake moves, and it's I don't know.
You could just throw that cheap piece of plastic out, though, right? I mean, that wheel.
Yeah.
Or you can make a sculpture with it. With that and the one that came out originally with Excite Truck from Ubi, you could do wheel sculptures.
The Nintendo one is a lot better than the Ubi one.
I mean,
How can
It feels
the fact that
solid.
it's fatter and heavier really helps because
You're talking about a plastic circle that you drop the thing into it. It feels a lot better.
I'm no fan of it, but it definitely felt better, trust me, than the Ubi one.
Oh, it has
Wow.
its own buttons and stuff, so it has some
Well,
electronics.
it's a mechanical thing. It's a cap that goes over the
It's just like the zapper.
Z trigger or whatever. So when you press it, there's something inside that presses the Z button on the Wiimote. So,
all right.
what else have I played? Some Insecticide, more because I had to. Well, I kind of like it, but
Why'd you have to?
we were running it up, so I needed to play it.
Nobody's going to buy it. You don't have to worry about that. People will be looking for that.
It's all right, it's interesting. I mean, it's a point it's got some Sam and Maxiness about it. And then
I thought it was a platformer.
No, it has platform shooter.
This is the DS game by Gamecock?
But it's
PC
mostly a point-and-click adventure. It's actually a
Weird.
detective story. So it's really strange. It's like a sort of gumshoe-style detective story.
Tell Donahoe it's noir.
It is kind of noir.
Seek it out.
It is kind of noir.
It's like Hotel Dusk 2.
No, not that noir. But it's that, but it's like all of the characters are bugs. So, like, the hardened gumshoe detective is actually a cigar-smoking cockroach.
Are there platforming bits? Or am I
There are platforming sections.
So I'm not insane.
So the first level of the game is actually you chasing after this bug with a gun, and you think, oh, this is just a bad 3D shooter on the DS. And then once you're through, that's one of the action sequences, and the rest of it is actually really old-school point-and-click adventure, but where the navigation is in a 3D environment.
So it's a bad 3D shooter on the DS with a bunch of fiddly bits.
Well, the adventure bit's actually all right. The puzzles are okay.
Is it a license?
That's hilarious.
Can you confirm, deny?
Sean is pouring vodka into a bottle of water. It's great.
Confirm, deny. The what are they playing write-up says it's like Naked Lunch on LSD.
Yes, because it's like
which is
bugs,
like what Bob
bugs
Marley
talking.
on pot.
It's like Brazil on
Bob
X.
Marley on yeah.
And I started playing the Square game that I can never remember the name of.
The World Ends With You.
The World Ends With You.
Which I said everybody should buy.
Dude, and everybody, like, I said that,
very
and then Jeff Kanata on Totally Rad Show said that, and he, like, emailed me back. He's like, dude, seriously, you really should play it. It's really good.
Well,
so I don't
as I
know.
said-
The style of it's fantastic.
As I said, Square isn't doing any marketing for it, so we have to.
Yeah, they really haven't been marketing that
it
game
has
at
that
all.
whole kind of jet grind aesthetic, and that it's a beautiful game.
I think it's hipper and more with it than most other RPGs out there, but no one notices it.
Yeah,
So.
it's great.
I'm surprised they're not marketing it because it looks like it was specifically made for like a large contingent of like
they don't even say like from the creators of Kingdom Hearts. Like they should.
Right, it should. And
it's got the same illustrator too for the like. I saw the.
But it's
the
very
box.
kind of older teen kind of vibe to it, and it's really well done. Have you tried it?
No, but I mean, here's my thing is, and I am going to be perfectly honest about this, is I'm not willing yet to fall into it's cutting into my Grand Theft Auto 4 time category yet, because I don't want anything to cut into it. It's like, I actually wish that I had taken all week off this week just to stay at home and play the game.
Wow.
Seriously, I'm really, really into
That's
it.
the opposite of me. I got to the point where I was worried last night that I hit the point that I've hit in the past two, where I just stopped playing.
Were you like, I can live without it?
Well, it's not like I stop and rage or anything.
We're officially in the GTA conversation now?
Wait. Do we have anything else anyone want to get out there?
I have other games.
Well, let's get them out there. Let's get them out there before we fall out into the GTA
Hold that thought.
pit.
Let's talk about them.
Okay, well, I've been playing Secret Agent Clank. I'm reviewing.
Oh, tight.
No.
Oh.
I mean, so how big of a fan were you of Size Matters, the previous PSP and later a PS2 game?
On PSP, I thought it was pretty cool.
So
on PSP, I thought it was good.
So this is the same developer, same engine, and I've been asking for a Clank game since this series started out because I think Clank is like the funniest thing going. His dry humor is the perfect foil to Ratchet's blandness.
Cool.
But it's not as good as the other Ratchet games. I mean, it's not bad, and you could certainly do worse for platformers on PSP.
Is it bad because of the game, or bad because Clank needs that dry foil?
Well, it's bad because of the camera. The camera's bad. Yeah, you have to babysit it. And
That's almost the end of the story, right? In a platformer.
Right. So the camera's bad. You're constantly.
It's like your aim sucks.
You're constantly babysitting it, and Clank is not a guy who goes around shooting things. So it's a stealth game.
Oh god.
Where you have to make stealth kills.
Do
and
not
if
want.
people see you, it's mission failed. So that's part one there.
Okay.
Done.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
You can stop.
Yeah, you can't stop.
You get all these different cool little gizmos you're used to like get past different obstacles and solve different puzzles, but in every room it's obvious you have to use that gizmo to get past this puzzle, and checkpoints are few and far between, so you end up replaying a lot of
Is it kind of as obvious? Oh, it's really dark in here, and you just got a flashlight in the previous room.
And then it tells you on screen what to use. Yeah.
Oh, great.
But it isn't a spoiler to say there are also Ratchet levels, and there's even Captain Quark level, And the Ratchet levels.
Captain Quark. Even Captain Quark.
You've never been.
Fuck is Captain
OMG.
Quark, dude?
You've never been able to play as Captain Quark in a 3D Ratchet level. I think the second or third Ratchet game.
There was a 2D platformer.
platformers. All right.
It was.
So the Ratchet levels seem really.
Dr. Mudo or Nudo? What was that?
That's Dr. Mudo. That's my claim.
Dr. Menudo. That's the guy you get after the hangover.
You might be thinking of Vex. I don't know. No. So the Ratchet levels seem really, really fun because Ratchet has all of his weapons, but they're just arena battles, so those get kind of old. So really the best thing in the game are the Captain Quark levels, which are boss fights, and they're really funny, but that can't carry the whole game.
I did have an inspiration while you were talking about this. I'm ready for a Daxter and Ratchet game. There you go.
That's a good idea.
Daxter and Ratchet game.
That's maybe that's the next idea. But I'm not saying this is a bad game, and Ratchet fans should check it out. But know that it is a forced stealth game, and like you're getting into a forced
Daxter
stealth
and Ratchet
game.
or Daxter and Clank?
Daxter and Clank.
The
No, because you got
game.
no. backwards crossover.
No, Daxter's the fun one. Like Jack is
Right.
the boring one. Jack
Right.
and Ratchet would be the most boring game ever made.
Right. Because the point is, you have to have the full. You have to have
Okay.
you have to have the contrast. Because you were just saying you have to have the
Right.
contrast. I mean, I guess you could do Clank and Daxter, but then you'd have the two jackasses.
It'd be all sass and nothing else.
Right. See, that's what I was saying. Like, I don't know. I just thought it'd be an interesting crossover.
I could live with that. I was going to say Ratchet and Jack would just be
Oh
like
God!
two really boring people doing nothing.
It would have like a My Chemical Romance soundtrack to it.
All right, so the other game I played this week was Valkyria Chronicles. What is it? Something of Galleon. It's
That's not Valkyrie?
No, it's actually I made that mistake. I thought it was that. I thought it was a spelling mistake when I saw it, but it's not.
Valkyria Chronicles.
Galleon Chronicles, and
More
it's this,
Japanese utterances?
it's a JRPG strategy Japanese RPG by Sega, and it's been a long time since Sega was relevant in the RPG realm. And this one is a real breath of fresh air because it has this great graphic style you might have seen. It's like a canvas shaded thing where everything looks like it's kind of like pen stroke, like watercolors, and the new Prince of Persia is actually ripping it off wholesale. But like the art is, you've never seen anything like it. It's like some of the best looking cell shading you've seen, and it's kind of like an old school Final Fantasy Tactics or Shining Force, except instead of being hex based, you can actually move people anywhere you want. And then when it's time to attack, you actually get to aim your gun and shoot, and you can aim for headshots or like hit someone's foot and like they fall over.
Platform.
It's for PS3, and it's set during like an alternate reality World War II in Holland, where like regular people get
Wooden shoes.
wooden shoes, but no, like everybody gets conscripted into the army. So you're playing as like this girl who's like a 16-year-old baker and her friend, and you're given all these characters right away, and it's actually really fun and challenging.
What's the alternate like history? Like, what's their take on it?
Well, there was no
what events are
there were
different?
no world wars. Instead, there was like a Europe is split east and west, and this is like European War II, and they're fighting over energy. It's kind of ripped from today's headlines. But yeah, like it's
Oh, so when you said it's a alternate world war, it was like comma TOO.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just,
Not alternate World War II.
Well, it is an alternate WW2 actually. It is. It's set in the 30s. So it's like that era technology. You have tanks, and it's kind of a fanciful, almost like Studio Ghibli-esque take on World War II.
Holy shit.
And it's
Well,
fun.
we've gotten very esoteric now.
Fanciful Studio
But-
Ghibli-esque.
From what I've played, it's pretty addictive. If you're someone who likes strategy RPGs, it's definitely one of the best ones I've played in years.
We're gonna have to start bringing like cheese and crackers to the discussion.
And it comes out here this fall.
Huh.
And the other thing, it's made by the guys who made Skies of Arcadia, which is a fan favorite for Dreamcast.
Okay, now wait, you just turned me now. Now you got me
All right,
interested.
Skies of Arcadia was great.
So the director of this game was the director of Skies of Arcadia, and Vice and Ica are characters in this game.
So what happened?
No shit. Oh my God.
Sega
Sold.
opened an office door somewhere in Japan and went, oh my God, there's all these guys who know how to make RPGs in here.
Exactly, more or less. Yeah, so those characters are in the game, and you get them pretty early, so it gives you hope.
That's really cool. How come
Yeah.
no one has ever done by the way, how come no one ever has done something that was similar to the way you did the airship battles in that game? That was really fun. The Skies of Arcadia airship battles.
Yeah.
I thought those were an interesting way to do that sort of interactive but grand, tactical. Did you play it? You know
Yeah,
what I'm talking
it was
about?
awesome.
I really
how did
enjoyed
they
that
work?
part.
What were the airship battles?
So each time you had it's kind of like a quick time event thing coupled with a managing your ship as far as like which side of your guns you had, which side of your guns you brought to bear. You'd see the opponent, and God, how did you ever play? This is a really obscure reference. You probably won't get it. Did you ever play those flip book games where you had like Ace of Aces and you had how would you explain it?
Welcome to Esoteric Hour.
I know. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it.
When you say flip book games, that's something you played in the 60s, like an abacus
Yeah,
game?
it's like something we played in the 60s, an abacus game.
Let's step it back up, but let's come.
Each
We're like
person-
inches above it. Let's go like 20 feet above the idea. It's sort of like galleon fighting. Imagine like
I'm going to jump under the table.
an ocean, a sort of old school galleon fighting, like in some of the MMO, like
But
that Pirates MMO, the way the combat is in that.
It's been a
And
long
you elected which next direction to take the enemy, and then it would show you cinematically how that played, where your positioning went against where their positioning went, and what weapons you had opportunities to
Yeah,
fire.
if I
And each
recall-
weapon had a
You're
time
making it sound
counter.
a lot more boring than it
If I
really was.
recall,
But it was cool.
It was
We're
kind of like
taking it back to Silent Hunter.
I mean, it's
fucking wreck shit.
it's
with
been
mass
like
summoning game.
It's been 8 years since I played Skies, but I'm pretty sure it was kind of like a paper rock scissors thing underneath.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It was.
So you're not anticipating your opponent's course and then like raising and elevating and lowering your
It
cannon.
wasn't that
Well,
complicated.
you were sort of anticipating to the extent that you had to think of, okay, I'm going to come up here and it's going to take me 3 turns to have my cannons reach. Fuck off.
All right, let's
never
just
mind.
forget it. I'll take your word for it. That shit was hot.
But the good news is, Garnet, back at last year's TGS, when I was interviewing these guys, I didn't know who they were, and the game had just been announced, so I was like, ran out of questions after 15 minutes, so I was like, hey, what'd you guys work on? And that's when I found out the main dude was a director of Skies, and I'm like,
that's really cool.
And I'm like, everyone loves Skies in America. You should make another Skies. Please make Skies. And he's like, I'd love to make another.
But we're going to do this painting thing first.
The only problem with Skies was the random encounter. The random encounter rate was way too high in Skies.
I agree. But yeah, the fact that those characters are in here are very promising. Comes out in the fall. All right, time for GTA.
All right, time for Nico. So yes,
you had a thought
so
that I'm hoping you remember what it was.
We can go to Garnet. I was just saying it would be interesting when we talk to it, which is now, just because it's like we have opposite reactions. I mean, like mine, but I wanted to clarify. It's not like I hit this thing with GTA sometimes. Like GTA 3 was the last one I played in its entirety, and I don't quit in anger or anything. I just kind of like move on to something else. I was like, it's not quite. And that's why I always wonder. I always try to puzzle out from people, like, what is the X factor in this game? This is also leading up to one of our questions for 4-minute warning. But what is it, the X factor in this game that really is like pushing you over the edge?
It's funny because Garnet said he has the burn, whereas obviously the burn.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that.
Faded for you.
The burn
there
is
have been a number of points where
different games.
I think, and a lot of it is due to your own approach on something. And there's been a couple of levels. There was one called Undressed to Kill, where you're going for Dwayne to hit the strip club, and you have to take out the managers. And I must have done that fucking mission like 20 different ways, like 20 times.
Did you give up on it and do
No. Well, I was thinking about like this might be the point where I put it down for a while, and then I thought you had to. I'd spent the whole time thinking you have to go in there guns blazing because there's like the thugs on the outside, and you think that there's animosity from the moment you get there, and then just as a sort of fuck you gesture, I just wandered in without a gun just to see what would happen.
Yep.
And nobody was shooting at me, and I'm like, oh right, this is what you have to do. And it's that you sort of go at the fact that it fucks with your assumptions every now and then. Like you think that this is going to be a big combat mission, and it turns out that it's actually a very light combat mission followed by a big car chase, which I didn't see coming at all.
I have to jump in here because one of the like big picture realizations I've had over the past few days is that one of the things that really stands out, I think, about Grand Theft, and one of the things that people really like about it is we live in an era of video games that are very dominated by shooters, and Grand Theft has shooting in it that's really fun, but it's at its best as a chase game. It really is at its best when the police are after you and you're cruising through the streets in the fastest or maybe not the fastest, the craziest car you have.
Toned the police down big
significantly.
Time. Like, in fact, all the ways that San Andreas punished you, they've changed.
One star is not a challenge anymore.
Well, 1 star you can evade really quickly. When you got up to like anything beyond 3 or 4 in San Andreas, they would get the SUVs and they would be ramming the shit out of you. And if you got 2 of them, they would just corner you and there would be no way out.
And now you couldn't escape. I just remember.
So the escape, that's a huge deal. The fact you can bang on A and get out of when they're trying to arrest you, that's huge.
But it makes sense. Come on, you're supposed to be this badass thug. Why would you just let them lock you up?
But I think it's clear that they looked at the negative feedback this time, and as far as everything that I would get a little bit like, I could live without that. They've changed.
Yeah, and by the way, I agree with being able to get away from 1 star easily because you get into cop situations a lot, and having if every one of them was punishing, it makes the game a grind. Being able to get away from 1 star reasonably effectively makes the game much more playable.
So what I want to talk about with GTA is a little outside of the gameplay, and it's some of the stuff that I thought a lot of the reviews didn't go into. Particularly some of the longer, more epic and exhaustive reviews that were out there. Oh my god! Because I think to me, this is like, okay, this is the next game in the biggest franchise in video gaming for as long as anyone can remember. Can we all take it as read that they were going to make the combat better and that the driving was going to be okay? And all
no, actually, I don't think we can.
But that's not what's important about this GTA. What's important about this GTA is the fact that it's so much more than the pieces, the combat and the driving.
Yes.
It's a tragedy. It's not a huge victorious story the way San Andreas was. And when was the last time someone did a 6 million unit selling tragedy on any platform? And the fact that it's like you can actually talk about GTA 4 the way that everyone says they want video games to be talked about. You can criticize it artistically. You can talk about, it's packed with metaphor for a start, which I think. I mean, Gears of War not packed with any metaphor at all.
It is. Gears of War is, to be fair. It's paper thin, but I basically, if you look at a story that was told in Namor, also like shades of the Morlocks, and then because of Susan Connor who wrote it, right, and you look at like her interest in Blackside, there's loose metaphor there with this underling class of creatures, and they start off as the villain, and I think they're probably going to get humanized to some extent, and if not, they're going to make an increasingly more prominent point of pointing out that we're taking their resources and we're taking their energy and we're calling.
But it doesn't
villains.
really. I mean, if it's there, it's not that apparent. You got to be really looking for it.
Which could mean that it's effectively subtle.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
but what I really liked in GTA was like the whole, the broader sense, the way that Nico and the game are actually really closely linked. At the beginning, you don't know anything about Nico at all, and your access to the city is capped into that small area, and they block the bridges. And as you learn more and more about him, when he finally starts talking about what it is that he did before he came there, is when all the bridges open up and you can get everywhere in the game, and you'd always had the Algonquin skyline in the background kind of teasing you as to where his life was going or whatever. And it's not until you've learned about, there's like so much of this stuff that they did with his character, and I think the only person that really explored it at all was Seth Giselle in the New York Times, of all places.
Well, why of all places? That's
exactly. Seth's on top of that shit, dude.
He's on top of that shit, and he should be. But all of the guys that write about video games got really bogged down in
proved
in
exactly
mechanics.
why. Well, never mind.
It's funny,
I'm not
John.
going to say it. You know what I was about to say, though.
It's funny, John. What you're saying reminds me is because as Metal Gear Solid is about to be reviewed, and I remember my experiences with it, and I think GTA is much the same way in that if you have an emotional response to a game, and that's usually to a character or to the narrative, what's happening, like our video game journalism doesn't really value that. Doesn't value like the emotional response that you have. And whereas I think that's what's key to these games, and like reviews, ratings process. We were talking about graphics, gameplay, sound, all these.
Well, they were evaluations of GTA 4.
Right. There's no checklist for like my emotional response to this game, and I think it's actually the most important thing, and it's what is undervalued by.
But the score, I think, what happens, I think, though, is people are pretty true to their emotional response, and it comes through in some way. They don't articulate it, but that largely explains the score.
It does.
And then they have to go and justify it, and they say, well, I like this so much, how do I go and do it? And then they turn to the template, and that's the graphics, and they're like, since I love this, what can I say other than that the graphics were great? And then every time I make a complaint, I need to hurry up and like turn it back around and say, but
it was fun.
Yeah.
Or
So I mean, I think it could be done. I mean, this is interesting. I don't want too much overlap. We were talking about this very thing, on GFW Radio this week. But I mean, you can do it, and it's. I mean, part of it's if the audience wants it. I think the audience should. In cases where, like I was reading one of these reviews. I don't know if it's the same one you're reading, and it was making this big deal about it with this preface about how, you don't need to read this. Of course, you're already buying it. Of course, you're getting it. But if you're just in any case, you absolutely need to go get it. And it was like, if it's coming to it with all these assumptions that that everything you said, that the gunplay is better, the graphics are better, the cars handle better, or whatever the case may be. Why do you want to read them telling you the same thing? Why don't they then take that opportunity and talk about something else? I mean, one thing that's interested me, I don't need to repeat it since I've done it on podcasts already, but I'll hear your take, is how your perception of of Nico's character changes throughout the time that you're playing it, and as additional missions pop up, and how that correlates to the way that you play the role of him. So to maybe get started, one example that I had was at first when we met last week for One Up Yours, I was like, I really don't feel comfortable just going on these random sociopathic sprees, driving people over because it's out of character. But then I had a problem, and I started to feel like this guy really is a sociopath. He'll kill anyone without any, loyalty. Loyalty is his only unidimensional justification for anything, insofar as to the point I played the game. And it kind of was like, got inconsistent, and then I'm like, you know what? This guy is just a piece of shit. Whatever self-justification, rationalization he has, at the heart, he's just a sociopath. So then I was like, this is fun. I didn't hate the game, but I was like, I'll just run over everyone and stuff. I mean, did that like...
Well, there's definitely some giant, because like every now and then it gives you those somewhat artificial choices, where it's like, do you kill the girlfriend or do you go after the boyfriend? And you can do it, and there's this, based on your path through it. But then there's the big decisions as well. I mean, Patrick blogged. Did you read Patrick's blog this week about feeling genuinely bad about a decision that he made in the game, because there is from about, I guess,
which Patrick, what blog?
Patrick Klepek.
Okay, on MTV Multiplayer.
Yeah, he blogged about, actually it might have been on his own blog, but I think he linked it. This is a big spoiler to anyone that's not got that far.
Spoilers.
And no, I won't spoil it. There are two characters that are intrinsically linked, and each of them asks you to kill the other one. And you have to progress through the story. You have to pick one of them to kill. And Patrick made a choice that he felt at the time that was right, and then immediately having done it, regretted it.
That's awesome. That is so.
When was the last time a game did that?
Awesome.
Oblivion, that one, it didn't work for everyone, but there was, of course, the mission where you had to take.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, there was one specifically where the husband and wife are setting each other up, but then there's the crazy guy.
Yeah.
And who was wanting you to.
But it's so rare that kind of like real consequence, and that is that anything that was going to happen with this one character is then gone.
Right.
And the other one is criticizing you for actually following through on what you did.
People, I mean, I don't want to challenge. I'm sure Patrick regrets it for all the right reasons, but what's a bummer is when people regret it simply because they feel they've been cheated from that point forward, and that they aren't seeing the game in its entirety.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to, we talked about this a while ago after GDC when Peter Molyneux was talking about consequence, and what GTA does to stop you from forcing it is it does an autosave the second you make the decision. So if you're playing down the path, you can go back to a previous save and redo it there, but if you're playing in the same path, it locks you on an autosave the second you pull the trigger. It spins.
Good for them.
And it's great because, like, then you're immediately, because of the response that you get in the phone call, like when you call and say, okay, it's done, and the guy's just like, oh, geez, that was fucking cold, dude. Like, I didn't think you'd actually do it. And you're like, wait, what?
It's funny, talking about the emotional responses, and what we were last week saying about the dating, you were criticizing it, Sean. A lot of my friends in the last week have been like, yeah, I'm totally over the dating. It's so artificial. It's such a mini game.
But it has such a huge point to it.
It
When you get to the point of the game where it's significant, it's like, oh my God, thank God I slept with her.
I think people feel cheated, though, because they really want to be involved with Nico's life, and they really want it to matter, and they want it to be unique and interesting, and it does feel rote, after a while.
Well, I think I like the pacing of it as well, because you'll go through these mechanics and it'll set them all up, and you execute on a bunch of them, and and Michelle, she keeps calling you, and you're like, I don't know if I can be bothered. I got the kind of that way with Roman because I just kind of found his character annoying.
It is.
So I just was like, the big titties, and you'd be like, all right, I'm kind of. And him and Brucey just kind of annoyed me, so I started ignoring.
Brucey is awesome. Brucey is so funny.
Which, as an aside, Karen's blog about his tattoos was fucking awesome.
Fantastic. Such spot on, nailed it.
But then what it'll make you go through this process for a long period of time, and then it'll just hit you with like 4 or 5 like major like plot twists and major things where it makes you thank the fact that you were actually playing it fairly methodically. Because there's a number of points where it's like, well, if I hadn't have done the dating, then presumably this scene wouldn't have fallen the way that it did. And if I hadn't have killed this guy, then this would have happened. And it'll do them in sequence.
So even though dating isn't always fun, the investment is worth it.
There is a point to the dating.
So here's the thing then for me.
With one person?
There's it's different ones. So there's different girls. So there's some girls that just allow... They unlock gameplay mechanics when the relationship goes up. You know the way that when you get past a certain level with Roman, he'll send a car service for you.
Right, they'll send you to bars with dartboards and.
There's a nurse. What is a nurse? The nurse will heal you over the phone once you're friendly with her. But then there's another character who, if you've been dating her for a while, there's a major plot point with her, and depending on how good your relationship is, she either makes life very difficult or very easy for you.
Well, so you guys were talking about, asking me about the burn, right? Here's the reason I have the burn is because so far, a little over a week into this game, I'm still playing it very organically, and that is very uncommon for me for a game. I still sit down and play the game, and sometimes I play...
So you're not just playing through the story?
I'm not just playing through the story.
Are you hunting for pigeons along the way?
If they're there. Sometimes I just get in
I found one. They're really fucking well hidden.
They are really well hidden. So sometimes I'm just screwing around. Sometimes I'm doing the extra missions for characters. Sometimes I'm just, hey, let's go out and play a game of pool, Roman or Brucey. Let's go ride around the boats or whatever. Sometimes I'm playing a story mode. Sometimes I hop on multiplayer. And I'm still in this moment where I'm playing it so organically that I'm not thinking about, I'm going to go do this in the game.
I have to admit, multiplayer is the biggest threat to me ever finishing this game.
Holy
Because when
shit.
I first started, the first day, people were sending me requests, and I was denying all of them because I wanted to learn how to play GTA and play through the single-player game. But then my friends were like, you don't have to play set modes. There's like a fuck around, have fun mode. Let's just do that. So, okay, my first game in with 4 of my friends. And the whole city is still pretty close to me, but all of a sudden we're hopping in a guy's helicopter.
Oh my God, dude.
And flying to the Empire State Building, the highest building.
Yeah. And jumping off.
It's amazing to me because I haven't seen this part of the city. It's sunrise. It's beautiful. We're all chatting and like.
Dude, we did Apocalypse Now. We went to the airport and we grabbed like 3 attack helicopters and then ran over.
The attack helicopters are a must.
And we ran over to the other island and picked up the other helicopter. So now we have like 5 guys, all of us in attack helicopters. We'd already gone through the city and swept out weapons. So then we go through the city, raising hell, getting our star level up, go over and land on top of the ferry building and proceed to just stand there on top of the ferry building with RPGs, blowing away every cop and SWAT van and everything else.
What I will say is when we leapt into like a real team deathmatch game full of real players, we were obliterated. People were spawning us where we camp spawning us.
They knew what to do.
Spawn camping us, sniping us. It was no fun. It was people were way too good, and that wasn't fun for me at all. But
so you wanted to play it kind of like Crackdown.
Yeah,
just kind of bouncing around and blowing shit up.
Bouncing around, having fun, goofing off, and
Cops and Crooks is so fun. Cops and Crooks is a blast.
Well, but I got to say, this week Prototype got pushed back. I have to wonder what other open world games are going to be pushed back because, hey, GTA Online is actually fun. I can't imagine people are going to stop playing it for 6 months.
All right, so
everybody should be worried.
I threw this out there to the community. Let's get some of the first week's worth of Liberty City news reports. The first one, this guy was quick. Some people declared him the winner already of the thread. This would be the supreme powerful one. He says his news report from Liberty City was, I was having sex with a hooker while Drew Hill was playing on the radio. I lost my virginity the same way back in 1997 in a Pontiac LE.
Oh.
Hi-yo. Mousepad42 said I was driving a bus around the Triangle area during a team deathmatch. I wanted to see if I could pick up my entire team and drive around with guns blazing. Unfortunately, before I reached teammates, I got enclosed with a bunch of the enemy. They got behind him, tipped him over, and then ran into him in his bus, which he thought he was going to get wrecked out in his bus. The other team, by knocking his bus over, turned the bus into a battering ram and ran it down the street and knocked over all the other teammates.
That's awesome.
For them. That's awesome. Smokey727 went out with Brucey to go play bowling. Some dude was running his mouth, which is great how the guys who are around will be running their mouth talking shit. This guy picks a fight with him. Brucey jumps into the fight and Brucey gets his ass kicked because he turns out to be a pussy. But so far this is Quannot. Quannot gets the AP award for actually doing the. He actually wrote it up like a news story.
Oh, wow.
He's like, Algonquin, Liberty City, USA. On Monday, a violent display of carelessness erupted between the Liberty City Police Department and a radical Rastafarian group, the Bad Men. First resulting in a shootout, then a prolonged high-speed chase throughout the city. Finally ended when an unidentified Eastern European man leaped out of his vehicle while moving at over 100 miles per hour into the grill of an oncoming SUV, shattering his skull, ribcage, and left testicle, as well as forcing his lungs to collapse. So this is really good. He talks about he's actually done
a role player on our hands.
Dude, he's got the whole thing going on. He's got an interview with the policeman in here. But basically it's really cool. He talks about stealing a Banshee, big race through the city. Unidentified man would appear unfazed by his pursuers, escaping 3 police roadblocks and causing countless police vehicles to be totaled in the chase. However, only 1 second after the 5-minute mark, the man reportedly opened his door, looked to the road below him, and jumped out just in time to hit the SUV. Anyway, keep them coming. We need more good ones like that. We need more
jumping
recounts.
out of cars thing I like, but what I also like about this one is that if you hit something really fast and you fly out through the front window, and if you catch it just right on a bridge, you'll actually fling him out and over the side of the bridge into the river.
Dude, one of the ones I didn't print out, this guy said that he got the 4-star achievement, and he was had a sliver of health left, racing down the bridge, and the edge of the circle for him to get out was just at the end of the bridge. So instead of trying to get away, he actually took the car at full speed into the bridge barrier. So it flung him through the windshield and out into the bay, and he flung him far enough out of the bay that when he landed in the water, he was outside the circle.
Nice.
How fucking tight is that?
Kind of back to what you were saying about how you can attack this game from different angles, from a critical point of view. It's interesting to me to look at the way that they've just in the process of solving the problems of how do you implement a dating game, they end up making a commentary or a sarcastic one where it's what are we going to have the success or failure of your day be gauged on? It's going to be if you got new clothes, if you got a new vehicle, or this or that. So you can like easily, juke it by running into the Russian clothing store at the last minute, getting new shoes, new pants, new jacket, not even looking at what any of them are like, mix and match them, jump in the car, and then the person's like, oh, you got new shoes. And it's like you hear the check, you got new pants. I love it. And it's funny, but it's also cool because it's like, I don't know, it's like if a robot or an alien was trying to figure out like human relations or something,
Later on, it seems to be a little more critical because, like, I got to a point where Nico was like, I was all dressed up for the mission with the lawyer, and I bought a suit, and I was wearing a nice pink tie and like nice shoes, and Michelle was giving me a hard time for it.
Yeah, she likes it. She likes you to dress like a scrub. Like
that's right, dude. She likes the muscle cars too.
Shop for that.
All right, let's get to some 4-minute warning. Before we do, I want to give a little shout-out to Yahtzee for going to town this week. You remember?
Yahtzee was awesome.
Oh, fucking awesome, Yahtzee, dude. You hit it out of the park. So if you haven't gone by
everybody look up the word objective in the dictionary.
and by the way, now we know what your mom's up to, too. Anyway, we'll be back in just a minute with 4-minute warning. Stick around. We'll be right back. That's right, kids. If you don't give a score, it's not a review. Here we are for 4-minute warning. We're going to start off with Shinogu. He says, with the success of the DS line of Nintendo portable hardware, the vague assumption of its presence as the third pillar of Nintendo is basically null. With nothing on Game Boy's side, is the Game Boy brand dead, or could it be revived? Possibly as a DLC service for portable Nintendo games.
Well, I've thought they should make a virtual console for GB, GBC, and GBA games for DS for the longest time, but we've seen no movement on it, and they're foolish to not do that.
Do you think that's a matter of bandwidth? Do you think it's a matter of they haven't thought of it or just haven't gotten to it?
I think Nintendo Channel is the first step towards that because Nintendo Channel spits things to DS. So I think they've never really had a formalized delivery mechanism. Short of doing it from the device itself, I think that going the PS3, PSP, pairing them up kind of route and saying, okay, you access the huge library through the big box and you spit it to the handheld. That there's potential there.
I think ideally it'd be great to access it just from your DS. Connect to a server and download that shit. We'll see. They're a very conservative company. But the other question is, will we see Game Boy brought back? I don't think so. I think
Game Boy as a hardware thing, I think is gone.
Yeah,
really? Because that's such a strong name.
DS is stronger now. I mean, I think the next console will be like a new DS.
See, that's the thing. Is what's the next handheld? Is it going to be
It'll be DS, definitely.
It'll be DS2.
Yeah.
Or they name it something else. Nintendo certainly had no problem introducing new, products with new names.
They seem to be doing all right.
But I would guarantee a touchscreen. I mean, the other rumor is the next Nintendo could be a phone. I mean, we always like.
Yeah, and I got to think that some kind of motion control, and if in the next sort of because there's another iteration of DS rumored, obviously the thinner one without the GBA slot. But I think the next iteration of hardware would be dual screens, maybe both touch, and probably with motion control like the iPhone.
Like some sort of sensor of which direction it was being oriented.
So rather than doing a cart with a tilt on it, actually having that mechanism inside.
And I think maybe we'll see that next year. Maybe.
You think that soon?
Because
DS, they're not slowing down.
I mean, DS is still really popular, but it's becoming, very kiddie, I think. And like,
you think they need
It's always been the same, though, hasn't it? I mean, there's always been like just a glut of bullshit.
The Game Boy was at the stage the DS is now for like 5 or 6 years before they did anything.
That's true. They're a very conservative company.
Well, now here's a blue one.
But they are getting beat by PSP now in Japan, so.
Well, there you go. It's all over. They've only outsold them 10 billion to 1. It's a little ways to catch up. Coming up next, we have Esky514. He says, when you guys have kids, or if you don't plan to, hypothetically speaking, how will you introduce them to gaming? What will be the first game you show them? Would you let your 15 or 16-year-old child play an M-rated game? Why or why not?
John?
All eyes on John.
The last part, I think you can't say until they are 15 or 16.
Yeah, absolutely, because everybody matures at a different rate.
Exactly. So if your kid is like borderline sociopathic or actually sociopathic, you might want to steer clear of it. So, but I think...
They let me have games.
Well, and look how you turned out.
I know. It's awesome. Worked out well. Thanks, Mom.
I have this crazy plan to make my kids play old games first.
See, I had that plan. I had this whole classic rock approach to rock appreciation approach to video games.
How did that go?
It didn't work out quite the way because it was Burnout's fault. I was playing Burnout Revenge on 360.
You can't play the new games in front of them. You have to be playing old games too.
I wanted to do old Atari and Nintendo
Shyamalan plot or something, whatever you say that guy's name, The Village or something.
You're force feeding him Jethro Tull.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the approach. I wanted to take that approach. I mean, we're doing it with music. I mean, we're introducing them to stuff like the Beatles and stuff first. But with games, I wanted to do that.
That works. You can make kids love old music.
Yeah.
And my kids better love Super Mario Brothers, or I'm going to disown them. It's seriously like
they are big. They are big Mario in general fans.
That's
like
good.
Anything Mario related, they relate to really well.
How quickly though we forget that like. I mean, I can't believe we're saying this. I mean, it makes me feel old. It's like I always grew up knowing that whatever your parents try to shove on you is precisely what you're going to despise most in life. But it's like, here we are, like, oh, I'm going to... So it's like, you got to play it down. Like, I fucking hate Mario. And then the kid's going to play Mario. I mean, that's just
if you
simple.
catch them young enough, they just want to be doing whatever you're doing.
With my luck, my kid will rebel and get a Jaguar.
Yeah, so it's like... But that's what I mean, like 15, 16. I guess, like, there's, like, those formative years.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean,
think back on it. Whatever your parents listen to when you're really young, you might like. But I bet... You probably don't like what your parents listen to when you were between 6 and 16.
I noticed it happened in reverse as well. That my mom and dad hated everything I liked on principle, and now they're listening to some of it. You know, it's like, what the hell's going on?
They just do it to get to you. I'm going to follow N Guy's step on this, which is that parenting is a very, very complex question, and
it's different for it. You can't say until the kids are right.
You know, N Guy wasn't playing games when he was a kid. What does he know?
Oh, that's true. Like he's been outed only since 1999. Come on, N Guy, what's up with that?
I'm just kidding, N Guy. We love you.
No, we're not really kidding. We're giving him hell.
Dude, that was the dumbest shit ever. We're talking about a Gaming Age forums thread where people went completely annoyingly ballistic because
he's only been playing games for 9 years.
Dude,
9 years.
The concern for me with that's
only 2,000-something hundred years, days or whatever.
To break the rules of 4-minute warning, the thing that was most annoying with that for me is that the whole notion of hardcore. What does it mean? And when you look at it and what people are getting at, it seems like it's. I don't even understand. It just seems like idiotic. It definitely doesn't mean that you're engaging games on some complex and thoughtful level. It doesn't mean what it means that you know the frame rate for every game at any given second it's on your fucking TV. Does it mean you know like what happens when you double tap the X button? I mean, it's just like it's a whole load of bullshit. I mean, what is hardcore in that sense?
You have to know the code.
Yeah. I mean, I just challenge people to think of that. What does that mean? Does that mean you got some fucking wall scrolls from Japan in your bedroom wall? Like, you can have hardcore. Keep it. Fucking freaks.
Art Wiggum is up next. He says, on last week's episode, there was a passing mention of the more even-sided press coverage of GTA 4's release than in years prior. Do you think this is a sign of gaming's increasing relevance in society as a whole, or have the news sources simply moved on to greener pastures for the most parts? If you cite the former, do you think that the increasingly non-gamer appeal of the Wii is opening up more more? That's a weird hypothesis, isn't it?
It's not the Wii. I mean, we got sucked into a lot of it, and there's multiple things. The top level, I think, is apathy on Grand Theft Auto from until something really bad was found. I think a lot of the reporters that have been doing it longer were like, didn't we do GTA last time round? And I think there was a reluctance. The other thing was, I think there are reporters coming up through the system that are game savvier. I think a lot of the outlets are starting to have guys who actually understand it and are being a lot more balanced in their approach.
Gals. I was on Fox Business Channel, and
Fox were okay. And
the girl who interviewed me in the warm-up during the commercial break was actually asking me like stuff about the game because she was playing it.
It's great. And there were two women on CNN. Anyone on CNN that wasn't Glenn Beck did a really good job with it.
Glenn Beck was ridiculous.
I think I got a cynical thing. Maybe like GameStop gave them the pre-order figures, and they figured when they were planning out their coverage, if they're like, shit, should we do another fear-mongering story? But they're like, that doesn't make sense when this many million people already pre-ordered it for their kids. We better tell them they made a good decision.
I think after Halo 3, and the takeaway there was like money, 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 money. The takeaway here is also, look how much money it made. Yeah. However, I was flipping channels, and the crazy Mad Money guy, he was saying, like, GTA is teaching our kids to be better criminals.
Wait, the Mad Money guy? Crazy like a Fox guy?
Kramer, I was watching, he was coming
out CD-ROM on how to...
Anti-GTA.
Wow.
But you know what? I like the point Sean was making.
Fame has gone to his head.
Exactly.
I like the point Sean made about the news directors being savvy to the amount of money and people gravitating in that direction. And I would say that I'm not actually cynical. I mean, that is actually, you know what? We're winning. You know what? Finally, we're winning.
The people that were damning it were starting to look silly. So a few things happened. So Dr. Walsh from the National Institute for Media and the Family teamed up with the ESRB to do a statement about it, so they couldn't say anything bad about it because they'd already endorsed the rating.
Right. They always say something bad about games.
Well, exactly. And so he came out. I mean, it was really smart of the ESRB to do that because it immediately neutered that whole thing. Then Jack Thompson goes on whatever it was and says there's anal sex in GTA 4, so we can immediately ignore anything he says.
I haven't gotten to that part.
Sometimes when it comes to public opinion, media sources like that are kind of like water. You have differential heating and cooling properties of bodies of water where it'll warm up, but it'll take a while. It's kind of like Harry Potter, like the first year comes out and it's like, is your kid practicing Satanism in the basement? The next year it's like, oh God, here's 20 million people in line celebrating Harry Potter.
Kids listen to Sean, he knows what he's talking about.
GTA overall, I don't think is a short-term thing. I think there's some long-term stuff. But I think that Cheryl Olsen and her husband that wrote Grand Theft Childhood, the fact that they've been doing a lot of media has really helped because, she really sucked the wind out of Len Bexell's when he was trying to get all fired up about it, and she was like, well, actually, no, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's what it is. The people who try to go out there and make these hyperbole statements that are just absolutely silly and get people riled up are increasingly being dismissed by a larger and larger amount of the audience.
And also a lot of the media figures who are out there are kind of fans of it. Like, Jimmy Kimmels, the Conan O'Briens, the way they cover it is like fun and smart and speaks to the fans.
Yeah. The times the times have changed. They have changed.
I'm going to throw this out there just because I'm not convinced in its proposition myself, but I mean, the state of the world's changed a bit. I mean, obviously, we got 9/11 further behind us, but the people have other worries right now too. Mm-hmm. Could that be an issue? There are more pressing concerns for people. I mean, we'd have to check and see what the big news stories each year are. But like, are people the most adamantly opposed and freaking out the hardest about games and books and stuff when they're not worried about other shit?
Yeah, and there's that, and there's retail is being the FTC thing today. We got that in the news later on. The FTC did a thing on, they did another one of their blind shopper test things, and like only 20% of kids were able to buy M-rated games in this last period.
We've got that in the news segment.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
And over half can still buy. So like games are being policed at retail better.
So then let me throw something back to you. Art Wiggum's point about the Wii being a video game console that more casual people are buying, does that mean that actually it's making all of video gaming more appealing?
I don't think anyone is making the connection between Wii and GTA, and even it being the same.
I'm not saying the connection. I'm saying that.
If anything, I don't think people look at Wii as video game the way they look at GTA as video game.
The sales of GTA prove that games aren't dead.
High sales of Bambi don't make people want to be chill with like Night of the Living Dead. Or
Did you really pull a Yakety Yak blog post?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I don't know, Vito. I can't put
Does
it there.
Does it got a YouTube video
or something?
No, I'm just giving him shit. I want him to get pissed. I want him to get pissed and give me crap. Yak, I'm just giving you hell.
Do we have a beige one in here too?
No beige? Oh, fuck. Anyway, here's Yak's post. He says, do you guys think the way you play games based on your jobs, i.e. deadline rushing, HDTVs available, sheer volume of games you play, sometimes makes it harder for you guys to relate to the average gamer? Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's something.
See, I don't play games like that anymore, and in retrospect, absolutely.
Absolutely.
When you have to play Metal Gear Solid 3 in 2 days or whatever the fuck it is, you play it differently. You don't savor it.
Or GTA. Imagine playing GTA.
I had to play GTA San Andreas. I mean, it was awesome.
Oh, God.
But I beat that game in a weekend.
That's
not how you're supposed to play it.
How much more am I enjoying GTA 4 because I'm playing it like a gamer and not like a journo?
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently not at all. When all the scores are 10, and that's what amazes.
Fuck the scores.
That's what amazes me, though. Is like that's a sign that it's really good when you can come out of a marathon session and not hate it, because those do magnify the frustrations. If you did that mission you're talking about doing 5 times in a row. Mm-hmm. I'll put my fist through that fucking TV.
I think what we got from the reviews is a very good assessment of the hype. Really.
That's a really good way
to
put it.
The hype gets a 10 out of 10. I mean, but it is very good.
Well, and another thing is, I think our perspective is this perspective that's unfortunately shared by a lot of message board people, to where a game is either a 10 or a 0, it's either awesome or it's shit. And like for us, when we see a lot of like 6 games or like C+ games, we just completely disregard them. Whereas if you're the guy who goes and buys that, maybe you actually get like the 6.5 of merit out of it. And
maybe you just enjoy it. Maybe you didn't get a score. Maybe you didn't get a score. Maybe you just enjoyed it and didn't worry about it.
The sheer volume of games we see, we tend to only notice the really bad ones and really good ones.
Yeah, I mean,
that is true.
I try very hard when I'm doing a review to think about it in terms of who's going to enjoy it, who's going to be playing it, who's going to be buying it, and what's it like if I'm actually sitting at home playing it.
But don't you find, and I used to find this a lot very often, you'll sit down with a game and you start playing it, and 5 minutes you're thinking, no one in their fucking right mind is ever going to buy this.
Well, I'm sorry that
it happens a lot.
Another
sex aside.
Another way to go to answer, the guy's question is that, like, for me, I found it very helpful to spend a lot of my off hours time socializing with average gamers. I mean, the people that I'm in Ventrilo with playing games like every single night of the week. I mean, with some exceptions, I'm not that much of a freak, but like for the most part, every week, they're people in that position. I see what they're willing to spend their money on, where they're stressed out, when they're like, fuck this, when they're suspicious of hype, when they're willing to buy into it, and it's like, I don't know. I think it's good. It's a good way to stay grounded. Yeah, it's a good way to keep that perspective in mind.
Sort of the whole keeping it real thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool.
Keep it real. R. Kelly's Real Talk. Let's get a sample.
Real Talk.
Following Yak, dude, you're just like going down the mods panel here. Like following next, we have Crispy 4001. Is that our Crispy?
I just picked the questions, not the people.
Not the people. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Next time the 360 drops, the core pack, if not the premium, is going to hit $249. But as for how Nintendo would respond, Iwata recently mentioned that they're not factoring a price drop into the financial forecast. How might the perception of the Wii change if it was sold at the same price as the 360? Amongst enthusiast gamers, amongst publisher and developers, how much realistically could this negatively factor into the discussion of publishers who might want to fund an original Wii game without a casual focus? Well, now that's the problem. Is there aren't
we're heading into tea leaf territory.
Yeah.
But it benefits Nintendo for Nintendo's games to be the best games on Wii, and it always will.
But, I mean, for anyone that's not Nintendo, I mean, they're getting to a point now where you got to look at the size of the installed base,
right,
and the composition of the installed base. It's not just, there's millions and billions of Wiis in the world, let's make whatever the fuck we want for it. I think you have to think about who it is that's buying it. And
I also think it's highly plausible that the Xbox 360 will cost less than the Wii in the next 6 months.
Yeah. But I
don't know about 6 months, but I agree with you. I think Greenberg said that's a plan.
How much are PS3s at this point?
$399. Starting at $399.
I'm always amazed at the price drops. I was like, what did we pay? I bought a PSP when that came out. How much was that?
$249?
$279?
$279?
Yeah, I bought one day. It came out
lot.
Just
for God.
No, but the Wii, there's no reason to lower the price. They haven't even announced different colors of controllers yet.
Right, and you've been out trying to buy one. You can't.
Pisses me off. But here's the point: is why if you're a publisher right now, why would
Wii Fit? You can't pre-order it now.
You still can't get regular Wiis.
No, and also everybody expecting Nintendo to have like a bunch of top secret awesome games for the fourth quarter. No, there won't be any. They don't need them.
No.
They don't need them.
You're sure of this? There's nothing? There's going to be no announcements?
We're
pretty sure.
There are a few little things, but some of the really big things people assume have to be out by Christmas will not be out by Christmas in America. No.
Yeah. I think the thing that goes against the question is that a publisher, especially a third party, is not thinking about making a Wii game that isn't targeted to being a Wii game. I mean, they're starting to get the idea.
Boomblocks is a perfect example.
Exactly.
They did a very good job of encapsulating what that system is all about and making a game that's like really accessible to non-gamers, and for gamers, it's really fun. I mean, it just works.
So the bigger question is, if the 360 gets down to that price point, will it be able to establish the momentum to become the PS2 equivalent for this generation?
Well, maybe.
It depends
but
on
I think we're still.
I'm not convinced.
But I think we're still going to get another Ghost Recon and another Rainbow Six and another whatever.
Of course, but then if the other rumor is true that Microsoft is going to try to go after Wii with a motion controller with their own version of Mii's, that'll be interesting to see if they can get the price below Wii and try to offer Wii-like abilities.
But it's not going to work.
Well, probably not, but you never know.
They're also sponsoring the first, what was that, Fitness Day? I didn't include that in the news, but 360 sponsoring Microsoft some Fitness Day thing.
Konami sent out a press release today reminding everyone that they were the ones that thought of exercise gaming in the first place, by the way.
With that yoga game?
No, with DDR having fitness mode in it. There was this long press release about how we've been doing exercise stuff in games for years.
Was there a little addendum like, by the way, fuck you, Activision and Rock Band?
They should have someone from Nintendo whipping, bitch slapping Microsoft with the power pad from the NES. Oh, shit. Swing that shit so hard you hear the fucking whip crack.
By the way, Nick got to see Guitar Hero 4 in LA for the next issue of EGM.
Guitar Hero 4.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know I've been falling off the Guitar Hero wagon. I might be back on the Guitar Hero wagon. Connecticut Yankee says, what criteria do you use when you review games? Do you review a game based on the sheer amount of fun you get while playing it, or how well the game was designed, or the flaws? For instance, I've always agreed with Crispin's statement that Dead Rising is the best shitty game I've ever played. However, it also may be one of the most fun games I've ever played. My question is this: do huge amounts of fun automatically outweigh potential design and technical failures when you score a game and write a review?
Well, the fun factor.
I'd love to sound up on this.
The fun factor is very important.
Oh, God.
Oh,
well,
God, hold on.
Going back to what I said before.
Do we have anything we can throw at him?
I think in most cases, people do. I mean, rationalization is just like one of the chief components of human behavior, right?
Yeah.
We've proven this in labs where you can take and you can stimulate a portion of a person's brain. They'll start to weep, or they'll become like insanely happy or something. And this was all induced through an electrical charge. And then when it's over, the patient or whatever isn't aware exactly of what happened, and you ask them, why were you laughing? And every single time they'll come up with a story or a narrative to say, oh, I thought your tie was really funny, or I was really sad because I started thinking of my mother or something. So to bring this back to reviews, I do think what you come from is this overall sensation, and then that's what leads you into everything else. I mean, there's the absolute primacy of your emotional response to something.
Yeah,
and I think you can work through it. Sometimes then you start writing, you start drafting your ideas, and you might get to this point where you start noticing things, as the intellectual side's kicking in. You're like, why do I like this so much when I'm pointing all this stuff out with this other part of my mind right here, and that clearly isn't good. And then you work through it. And for me, that's part of the review.
Yeah, I think it starts off purely subjective, and then you add sort of objective, like you're saying, it's objective kind of justifications of why you feel that. I mean, like Dead Rising is a good example for me. Yes, it's really fun, but it has so many things that like really bogged it down and stopped you from getting to the fun that you had to criticize it for that.
Okay, this may totally blow up in my face. I would be willing to bet that it will. But do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah.
It was in the Figaro. It was in the Fig, remember?
Yeah.
And I was still freelancing. Okay, so here's the question is, do I still have that stupid grin on my face and have that approach to it, or have I lost that? Okay, I mean, if I've lost it, that's fine.
It's not the same.
That's sad, because I try very hard to still...
What was the grin? About being in love with games, or was the grin also part of like
I'm at E3
being in love with the idea that you might get a full-time job writing about games?
It was being in a hotel with me.
Yeah, being in a hotel with John.
He was dead sexy. Like he still had his head shaved back then. I'm just saying, like, I still get up in the morning pretty often and think I'm so fucking glad that I get to do this for a job. I wanted to do this more than anything in the world, and so when I go to do a review, I try to just play the game and think, Is this? How would I feel about it? If I was reading a review, how would I feel about it?
But you don't want to respond to the game like, I love my job. I need to thank this game for letting me have this job.
No, not at all. I mean, if it's crappy, I want to tell people, God damn, this thing is shit. You should stay the hell away from it.
We've all been playing games for a very long time, and what we expect from games and what we expect games to do for us, it goes way beyond like, oh, my biochemical responses say it's fun to play Smurf for 2600. I mean, like, now a game doesn't always have to be fun or challenging to be good. Like, is Schindler's List fun? Am I having fun watching Schindler's List? No, but it's still a good fucking movie.
Fun. Let's not just go say fun. I mean, when we talk about the emotional,
but I think
the quality of emotional response and the intensity of it,
and everyone, fun is what they try to come back to. How fun is that game?
Well, let's not just say fun. Like, I mean, this is why we have all these other words that get used and overused, like compelling and engaging and gripping and all these things, whatever they might be. We've talked about
immersive.
Horror games, aren't necessarily fun, but the fundamental aspect I think that they all share, all the games that we rate highly and that we love, is that we think about them when we put them down. To a large extent, they're really sticky in our thoughts that way. When you go to bed, they're there.
Right.
You want to come back to them, and you want to spend time playing them. You know for a fact, whether the game's about fun or not, when you just simply do not want to play it anymore, you would rather do something else with your time, that this is not good.
Right.
And then what you have to do as a critic, I believe, is understand specifically why that is with this game, because everyone can say thumbs up or thumbs down. I mean, this is like what separates us from the people that we talk to in a GameStop or something, and finding out. And then what happens is when you find out for you specifically what it is that makes this game work or not work. However,
I have to ask him a question.
Other people. So there's background stuff going on. But anyway, I think if you do that effectively and you communicate for you what makes it work or don't work, they tend to be universal or near universal. Other people will share that and say, wow, he was able to articulate or make me think about it, and I'm starting to realize why I don't like it or why I love it so much.
So that's cool. But so my approach is that what I want to not do is I don't want to over-intellectualize looking at the game. How would you relate that then what you're talking